This morning we have a really great speaker for you, Mr. Phil Goddard. He's our ISWM administrator, and he's going to be discussing the new single-stream recycling and changes in curbside pickup for you for the Town of Bourne. So please join me in welcoming Phil Goddard.
This is a flyer that's going to be in the newspapers, in the Courier, and the Enterprise at the end of the month. And you'll also get a mailing right to your house that's double the size. We'll have a little bit more information about the drop-off center. As was mentioned, my name is Phil Goddard. I'm what's called the Manager of Facility Compliance and Technology Development for the Department of Integrated Solid Waste Management for the Town of Bourne. I can barely fit that on my card. And what that means is I'm one of the 3 managers that manages the dump, okay? I know people call it that, and it's almost a term of endearment now. But those of you that have been in town a while know that it really was a town dump back in the 70s and 80s, even until the early 90s. And really what a town dump in that sense means is that it was essentially a gravel pit where they dug out the sand and brought it down to Taylor Point here from Mass Maritime. And they expanded that in the 60s. Because where we are right now on MacArthur Boulevard goes back to 1967. Louis Pellegrini was the highway surveyor who put the new dump and the new building out there. And that's where the material went. They created a hole in the ground, and that's where our trash went. And literally, it was just a sand pit with no liner, nothing protecting the groundwater. You could go down there and throw your TV sets in the hole. You used to drive your car right to the working face of the landfill and drop everything right on the ground. And, that's pretty primitive technology, right? I mean, you're talking no oversight as to what goes in there, where the liquids go. When it rains, what happens to all that water? It goes through all that material. And that is why modern landfills have what are called liner systems. I'm going to talk a little bit about ISWM. I'll stretch this out or contract it as long as you gentlemen want to hear me. But I'll give you a little update on ISWM, which is the Integrated Solid Waste Management where I work. We call it ISWM, ISWM. And then I'll talk about what we're doing with the recycling and why. So somebody will give me a big hook anytime here if I go too long, right? So we're in the early 90s, well late 1980s I should say, I read an article in the Bourne Enterprise about a new committee. And I joined it called the Recycling Committee. So in 1989, the Recycling Committee was founded. And you might remember we started recycling, taking out Christmas trees and yard waste. In 1990, we had the first curbside recycling program on the Cape, that you had to separate all your recyclables at the curb. And that committee ultimately helped the selectmen figure out what they wanted to do with their town dump, because all the other towns on the Cape, you might be aware of, signed a contract in the early 80s with the incinerator where they make energy from your trash in Rochester, right up the street here. Everybody else in the Cape sent their trash to that facility except for Bourne. So we were the last landfill really operating as the main landfill for the town in the late 80s. But the regulations changed. Anybody here know what Love Canal is? Anybody here Love Canal? Okay. Love Canal, for those of you who don't know, was an old channel built in upstate New York, like the Erie Canal Project. It was a failed private venture in the 1800s. Fast forward to the 1940s, there was a chemical company in that town that filled in the canal with hazardous and toxic waste. And they built schools right on top of it, and houses. And they found out that it was leaking drums of material, and that led to the Superfund law in 1980. Jimmy Carter, that summer, was a big deal. And that started really the environmental upgrade to landfills, because now you had, where are we going to send our waste? Where do we need to send the hazardous stuff versus the non-hazardous stuff? what kind of liner systems do we have? We get gas that's produced from the decomposition of food waste, which is natural gas, like in your home that you burn, cook, eat. It's explosive, right? And it's a greenhouse gas. So we told this to the selectmen, and they realized that if they're going to build a new modern landfill to be compliant with the new regulations, it was going to be millions of dollars. And the way that the town had a structure to run the landfill was that the gentleman at the DPW would plow the roads, then they would go mow lawns and take care of the trees and do catch basin work. And then on the side, they would run the dump. Oh yeah, go down and cover the trash at 3 o'clock. And so it was a sideline. It really wasn't a full-time, they had the trash trucks, of course, but you know, it was a part-time oversight. And that wasn't going to be sufficient anymore because we all want to protect the environment. We don't want landfill fires, we don't want to pollute our groundwater. So to the credit of the people of Bourne and the selectmen, they created an entire new department, which is the department I work for, which is integrated solid waste management. And they hired staff that had the training and experience and focus on managing this site properly, not only environmentally, but also to have an integrated plan. And what that means is, instead of throwing everything in the landfill, you separate out things that maybe are hazardous, like oil and oil paint and bulbs that have mercury in them, and mercury in batteries and things like that, but also to start recycling. So now, instead of just everything being thrown in a hole, and I'm sure you gentlemen have, grew up around town dumps wherever you grew up, and they used to light it on fire in Hanover where I grew up. My brothers told me right into the 60s they were lighting the trash on fire in the middle of the town with tires burning and throwing oil paint on the fire in the 60s. I mean, just crazy stuff. So we can't do that anymore. So this department was created to manage that properly, but the selectmen had a problem. How do you pay for millions and millions of dollars of equipment, all the liner systems, the gas collection, all the staff, and the debt and everything? Where do we get the money from? We can't go to the taxpayers and for 50 tons of trash a day and divide that number into the total cost of millions of dollars. Your taxes would go up. You'd be paying $20,000 for taxes. So they decided that it had to be a large facility that would service commercial customers in other towns. And so that's why we're bigger than what you might have seen growing up, where every town had its own dump. Every village, a couple of villages in Bourne, Sagamore, one off of Clay Pond, the old Brookside Golf Course, the driving range was the old town dump back before the one where we are now. So you had villages even having their own landfills. Pecasset, Sagamore, Bow Beach. Well, if it doesn't cost you anything, then you can do that, but then again, you get the environmental risk. So, as you all know, there's no free lunch here, right? So that's how we started, and we created a separate department that is separate from your taxes, much like the sewer department, which gets their revenue from the people that use the sewer system. They pay per gallon. ISWM gets its money from companies coming across the scale. Over the years, we've changed our customer base, and right now, our main customer are two customers. Covanta CMAS, which is the incinerator, all the residual ash, after they combust the trash and make electricity, they have an ash left over like your fireplace, right? And the bottom aggregate, which is all the gravelly material at the bottom of the boiler grate, all of that comes to us as our main business, because that's ultimately the residuals of where it needs to go to a landfill. And the town of Falmouth sends their trash. So those are the two customers that pay for everything that ISWM does. My salary, all the equipment you see there, the swap shop, the recycling center, and all the carts that you're going to get, which I'll talk about in a minute. These are all paid for by this department, so that your tax dollars don't go to that. In fact, we contribute about $700,000 in cash to the general fund, which is where it runs the town, where the taxes go. And we pay for all the curbside collection and the disposal. So altogether, ISWM represents approximately $2 million in either cash or avoided costs on the town's operating budget that lowers your taxes. And I think people in town have understood that for a while. We talk about it a lot, but in case you didn't know, it's about an override the last 15 years that you've avoided because of ISWM. That's a good thing. That being said, we still have a responsibility. It's not about the money only. It's about taking care of the environment, providing a good service for the citizens of the town. And one of the benefits we provide is really low-cost trash collection, or no cost, and then a low-cost sticker when you come down to the recycling center. How many of you guys have friends in Barnstable that have a sticker at the recycling center? Anybody? All right, well, yeah, $200, $150? Okay.
It's up to 200.
$200 to get a sticker to go to the recycling center in Barnstable. For you gentlemen, it's $20. 1/10. And for a long time, we took unlimited quantities of TVs and mattresses. And so we limit that a little bit now. You get 4 stickers for free of those types of items. And then you pay a small amount. Right now we have a grant with DEP, $5 for a mattress. I mean, that's really cheap, really cheap. So we're able to do that because we have the revenue coming in that pays for all that and subsidizes it for the taxpayers as a benefit for hosting this facility. What's interesting is that the cash that we provide to the town is because we had a law changed that applied to privately owned facilities, applied to the town of Bourne. We went with Tom Kerr, the rep at the time, and had a law that taxed CMAS. The host community got money from CMAS for every ton they managed. We had that law changed so that this department, I'm a town employee, we pay another part of the town, the operating budget, essentially a tax. We call it a fee. Because we had the law change. So there's a way to get, otherwise the State Department of Revenue would force us to keep the money separate, entirely separate. So the sewer department can't raise the rates and make a bunch of money and give it to the general fund. So ISWM is a very unique operation. There are no towns in Massachusetts that I'm aware of that do anything of the sort that we do. There's a handful of landfills left, and by 2025, the town of Bourne and the town of New Bedford, Dartmouth, at the landfill there, are pretty much going to be the only significant landfills left in the state of Massachusetts in operation. That's a pretty amazing thing. Connecticut has 1 landfill. Rhode Island has 1 landfill. I'm part of a trade group. We're talking about this with the states. What are we going to do when we have no landfills? What people don't realize, yes, you have a question.
What's your answer?
What's my answer? Good. So the answer is you do things like recycling to reduce the volume that you have to manage in the first place. And then there are new technologies, which is part of my other job. In addition to the environmental compliance, getting the permits, the health and safety, I also look at new technology to manage the materials in a different way. Even with all of that, you're still going to need a place to put the residuals. Because everything you do, you touch, you have waste at the end of the day. There's really no technology that's 100% perfect in taking what you put in and converting it without any kind of residuals. At least at this point, it's cost effective. I mean, they have this thing where they have plasma, which is 3,000 degree metal in a bath, but it's millions and millions of dollars. So we're not going to be doing that anytime soon. So ISWM does many things, and we do it with all town employees. Everything out there is run by town employees. Everything out there is owned by the town. We run the landfill. We run a construction demolition transfer station where if you're building a house or tearing down a deck, that goes into a building that goes to a processing facility elsewhere. and they make fuel out of the wood. We have the drop-off center that everybody's been to the drop-off center, I presume, the recycling center, Dorothy's Swap Shop. We also run a building where commercial companies in other towns with recyclables come and tip their recycling in the big building, and it will go to the same place where your recyclables go. And I'll explain where they go in a minute. We also manage a flare in a well field that collects all the gas from the landfill and burns it. So that's a lot of things we got going on there. And we repair and maintain all our own equipment with 24 people, 25 people. So we like to think you're getting a value for the dollar. And one of the technologies that we looked at was, what do you do with all that gas? Rather than burn it, which is energy, right? You just like imagine a big candle out in the back of the landfill. How many have taken the tour? I know you gentlemen have taken the tour. Anybody taken the tour with me that I do every spring at Earth Day? Well, you're welcome to come out anytime for a tour. I'll drive you around. But every spring on Earth Day I do a tour where I drive the bus around the landfill and show all this stuff. But so we have all this energy, yes?
Fun.
It's fun, yes it is. This is a funny story. On the tour this year I had a gentleman tell me, and his wife was with him, and she said, yep, that's him. They were going to move and sell their house in Bourne and go to Falmouth. He said, I don't want to go to Falmouth. I want to buy another house in Bourne because I want my sticker to the landfill. I think a high compliment that he was so excited about coming down. And there's something fun. I mean, that's why I grew up here in the summers and lived here year-round almost 28 years or so. I used to go to landfill, be excited to go to landfill. I don't know, it's just fun. A lot of people really enjoy coming to the drop-off center. People from Falmouth will come across the scale with a bag of trash in their car just to drop it off at our facility rather than use their facility. It's pretty interesting. Huh? So the town of Bourne, knowing that we're more than a landfill, we're also all those other things. And then the question remains, what do you do when the landfill closes? Right now we're scheduled to close in 2024. We bought land at town, approved at town meeting, which is going to allow us to expand further south and move the offices way, way down to that land, and then where the swap shop is now, that will be landfill. That will get us into 2032. But when the landfill closes, how do we make money? How do we keep your taxes lower? What do we do with the landfill? And so we made an impression to the selectmen and the Board of Health that we are more than a landfill. We are a site where you could do stuff like these alternative technologies. So we'll probably have a solar farm on top of the landfill. But we leased land to a company that was going to take the gas and make electricity out of it, and also take food waste that is diverted in sewage sludge and put it in a big tank and make gas and put it in the plant and make electricity as well. Unfortunately, that particular company could not find, Eversource would not buy their power because it was too expensive, so they couldn't do the project. However, we have some other parties that may be able to make the project happen. So we're looking at making renewable electricity from that gas right on the landfill site. So it's not over yet. The story is not over yet. We're hoping to do that. So one of the ways that we want to keep the landfill lasting as long as possible is take out the recycling. And the Town of Bourne residents have done a great job since 1989 of recycling. And back in those days, it was the infancy of recycling, and so everything had to be separated. Because what you're doing is you're selling the commodities to companies that will use those commodities to make new things. So plastic milk jugs are made into carpet and clothing. Metal cans become cars. Then you've got glass can become other products. So in order for that to be sold as a commodity, it has to be good quality. And back in the early 1990s, we had to separate everything to make sure we had the quality. Fast forward to now, we're all busy lifestyles. People aren't really willing to separate out as much as they used to. The other thing that came in is that it's a lot of work for the guys at the curb to take your containers, lift up that container, glass, 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 metal, 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 newspaper, 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 plastic, plastic. I mean, think about that over all day long, every day, 500 stops in the town of Bourne. I mean, your shoulder's killing you by the end of the day. You're lifting and twisting. Oh, my back. People jumping off trucks, twisting ankles. This is a safety issue for the DPW, which, just to keep it clear, the Department of Public Works, which ISWM helped build the building up the street here in finance, because we're taking over their space to build the landfill. That's a separate department. They're going to be the guys that pick up the stuff. We're the department that takes it once they put it down. Okay? So we decided that technology has changed. We're all recycling now. Instead of going, and for about 10 years we took the recycling and we baled up the bales of plastic, and we baled up the bales of tin cans and newspapers, and we sold that to brokers on the world market. We didn't make a lot of money, and unfortunately China, which buys most of the recyclables, started saying, well, we don't want them, they're not clean enough, or the commodity prices have dropped, so now it's really expensive to recycle. Unfortunately, that's going to change. But companies said, we got to find a better way to collect it, we got to find a better way to manage this, so they decided that we're going to have everybody at the curb put everything into one container. So what this is about is you're going to get two 96-gallon, 95-gallon wheeled carts delivered beginning the week of July 5th. It's going to take about 3 weeks for the entire town to get their carts. You're going to get one of each, and there's going to be recycling instructions, which are on the back right here, but they're going to be printed right onto the lid of the recycling cart. So if you have any questions, just look at the lid. And all that goes into one container, and then it goes to a building with a company that we send it to that's probably 50, 60,000 square feet with all sorts of conveyors and magnets and picking stations, and they separate this all out there. So the industry as a whole has shifted from separating it to combining it so that the resident, it's very easy for you, and we get a lot of participation because human nature, the way it is, people have sort of slid in their habits, I've noticed. Because I open the bags of trash over the years at the landfill, I inspect the trash. People have thrown away beer cans, they're throwing away milk jugs and newspapers. I mean, that's just, just recycle it, but they're getting kind of lazy. And it's easier for them to throw it into one container and say, well, the recycling police aren't going to arrest me, right? We really don't want that. If we make it simple for you, where you just rinse it and put it in one big container, it's simple. The problem is in the back end, the industry has to adapt to separate that all out, try to keep the quality high. And one of the main things that we want to tell you when you look at recycling here is that quality is very important. And the good news is people start putting the recyclables in there, but then they start thinking that everything can go in there. So they get a baby doll arm, they throw that in. That's plastic. They get the garden hose, they get bowling balls, they get diapers, they get all sorts of inappropriate items. Plastic bags are really bad. They're little plastic bags, which, by the way, the recycling committee, you'll see a proposal to ban plastic bags coming from the recycling committee at the fall town meeting. Because those bags blow everywhere, they get into the water and affect the marine life. But we don't want the contamination in the recycling because it gets into the machinery at the facility where there's conveyors. It wraps around the wheels of the conveyors. And they got to stop the entire operation, have a couple of guys go down there and cut it all out. That's not a good thing. So this program is going to cost about $1 million for all the carts and all the retrofits to the trucks. And the good news for the worker is that these carts have a metal bar built into them. And the worker comes over with the cart, hooks it onto a special lift arm, and the lift arm lifts up the barrel into the vehicle and then puts it down. So the DPW crews aren't gonna have to lift that up anymore. But what you're gonna have to do is, we will only pick up your trash and recycling if it's in these carts. So you'll no longer be allowed to have your own barrel. And these, by the way, are the Town of Bourne's property. So this is meant for your curbside program. It's not meant for putting your paint cans in out in the garage, or fertilizer in the backyard or something like that, or composting. We have compost bins, by the way. But this is the Town of Bourne, and there'll be a grace period until Veterans Day for people to get adjusted to the new system. But what we don't want is bags of trash in a big circle around the bottom of the barrel, or a bunch of recycling cardboard lying on the street next to the barrel. Everything's got to go in the barrel. It's going to make the neighborhoods look neater. On a windy day down here, you know how windy it gets. You won't have everything blowing down the street. It'll keep out the animals, and it's going to make it safer for the workers. And we hope that the recycling numbers, which are not very good at the curb right now, are going to double. I think you're going to see that. We're going to track the numbers, and we think we're going to double the recycling at the curb, which means the landfill lasts longer, which means your taxes are lowered that much longer, which means that the story continues to go on and on. So the delivery is coming July 5th. Your neighborhood may get them on the 17th. You may get them in the first week. I don't know which neighborhood we're going to go to first. But let me just make a quick comment on the size of these. These are pretty big. But the reason we went with this size is that right now all your trash is free and it's unlimited. And you may be shocked if you went out on the truck with the DPW crews to see how much trash people put out on some neighborhoods, some houses. 20, 30 bags of trash, 6 barrels of trash. And human nature as it is, because there is no charge and it's free, there may be some folks bringing trash in from their neighbors in another town or their business. Leakage, if you will, we call it. So there's a lot of trash that's being brought in, and these guys are having to spend 5 minutes at a stop going like this, and sometimes they get stuck with a needle because you have a diabetic at the house who doesn't know how to get rid of the needles, and now that poor guy has to get a bunch of shots to make sure he doesn't get, hepatitis B or worse, right? So this will eliminate that. So we're going to have a grace period for everybody to get used to these carts. They're going to look a little intimidating at first, but literally hundreds and hundreds or thousands of communities across the country, down in Florida, with seniors, California, everywhere, have been doing these carts for many years. We're actually playing catch up to the rest of the country. And you don't want to go smaller, because then suddenly people will be upset they couldn't fit everything in there. And we would hear complaints that now I need another one, or they start putting that outside of the trash cart, and that's what we don't want. So we decided to pick a good sized cart, because if you're limited to that cart and trash, and you're used to putting 20 bags out, we're really contracting it down. But we wanted to be fair and give you a good sized cart. You always have the option of buying a sticker to come for $20 if you're 6-year-old at the landfill to come to the recycling center. And we take everything at the curb at the landfill, plus we take waste oil and batteries and textiles and antifreeze and the swap shop. So it's a bargain. That's open 7 days a week right now, Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then 6 days a week all winter. So not everything has to be placed at the curb. So if you were to buy, say you have a big family reunion and you have a lot of trash, you had a big clam bake, and you can't fit everything in 96, you can always come to the landfill and get rid of it. So that's the option. Or talk to your neighbor, maybe they have a little space in their cart. Okay? But we had to make a cutoff at some point, because it was getting a little silly if you drove around with the trash trucks to see what's out there, what people put out there. These gentlemen that work in those trucks really work on those trucks. I mean, it's a hard job. Anybody done that work before? They call it shaking in the back of a truck. You know what I'm talking about.
Not good.
It's up and down all day long. Twisted ankles, torn rotator cuffs, twisted backs. I mean, so this is going to save taxpayers money on the DPW side of the balance sheet from workman's compensation issues. Pardon my finger. So let me just go over quickly what's going to change. Look on the back side of here. So what can go in these carts? All fiber. And fiber is just a fancy way of saying anything made from wood pulp, like cardboard, chipboard, like cereal boxes, toilet paper rolls, magazines, office paper like this. Milk cartons could go in there. Pizza boxes, but not the greasy, slimy pizza boxes, but you know, the outer shell. Juice cartons, and that's what we mean by fiber. All the plastics, number 1 through 7. So the deli tubs, plant pots, milk jugs, yogurt containers, detergent bottles. And this, now we're saying, unlike before, you don't need to crush them down. And so you just rinse out the milk container, put the cap back on, and throw it in the container. And the reason is when they go to the recycling facility, if it's all squished down, it will fall through the screens, these little wheels that float the jugs along to be picked out by electronic optical eyes or the pickers. If it falls through into the metal pile, now they got to separate that out. So you don't need to crush them. There's one exception on plastic. That's styrofoam. Or it's polystyrene is the official word. Styrofoam's a brand name, believe it or not. So coffee cups, the Dunkin' Donuts coffee cups, the little tray where your meat comes from the deli, we don't want any of that stuff. Or the peanuts from the packaging. There's really, it's mostly air, and there's little value in it unless you collect a lot of it and densify it and bring it to a clean, it's all clean and separated. So right now it's a problem, we don't want that.
That's a girl in the rubbish.
Right, throw in the trash, yeah. Metal containers, tin cans, aluminum cans, you know, cleaned aluminum foil. You get a big bunch of aluminum foil from, you know, fairly clean, just kind of ball it up, put it in there. And pie plates, things like that. And then glass containers. Take the lid off and put it in there. If you come to the recycling center, we also have a container for rigid plastics. So this is the same material as your milk jug, but this is rigid plastic. So we have a container for that, which is separate from what you would do at the curb. Okay? In addition to everything that I just mentioned, we have at the recycling center. We don't want this at the curb. We don't want toys and things and garden hoses and other plastics in, because this is the cream of the crop in terms of recycling that we want to send to our vendor that processes this and sells it. So the less contamination, the better the price is for the town of Bourne that they charge us. The more the vendor makes, the better, cheaper it is for us to get rid of it. Because right now there's a worldwide depression with the commodity prices that's affecting all the recycling. So recycling is having a tough time. All these companies that do this are really having a tough time right now. We're hoping that's going to change. It's a cyclical market with the commodity prices. So quality control is very, very important. So what not to put in there? No shrink wrap from the deli, no plastic bags, no bubble wrap, no houses, no plants, food, or liquids, no dishes or Pyrex, or say for example this juice glass. Well, that's glass. No, we don't want that in there. No shredded paper. And people are going to say, wait a minute, this is recyclable, but then you said you don't want shredded. What's the difference? You got to think of the machinery where they separate this. Shredded paper blows everywhere. It will gum up all the machinery. So sadly, shredded paper we don't want in this container. So what do we do with the shredded paper? Because everybody tells you you're going to shred your documents so your identity won't be stolen. Well, continue to do that. Unfortunately, that would go in the trash for now. What we're thinking of doing is, there's a household hazardous waste collection day at Peebles. Are you familiar with those collection days every year? We have recycling, shredding event at that one at Peebles every year. We're looking at having another one this summer at the landfill. So stay tuned on that. And then you'd come down with all your paper, like I have a bunch of it, and they would shred it, and then they would take that paper with them to recycle. No tires, no plastic pouches. So what do I mean by plastic pouches? Well, just when the recycling industry started getting really good at recycling milk jugs and soda bottles and newspapers, the packaging industry came out with all sorts of new exotic packages that are these little foil packages where they put juices and then they put detergent pods. Everybody know what a pod is? Okay, instead of the liquid, they got little pods for your dishwasher detergent and your laundry detergent, and it comes in a little plastic bag. We don't want those bags. So the recycling industry is struggling right now with some of this new packaging. How are they going to recycle that? So just when they thought they had it figured out, you know, this new stuff comes on the line. They're still trying to recover, figure out how to. So for now, none of that. Shirts, pants, textiles. We recycle those now. Believe it or not, there's a huge worldwide market for all of your textiles. So the companies, the nonprofits, some of them are profit, they recycle the clothing that's high quality. You know, go to Salvation Army, Goodwill, but this becomes insulation in a building, or it could become some other type of product. So, and then it's sold around the world on all over the place, believe it or not. So any clean, dry textile, including shoes, boots, belts, leather, can all go to the recycling center. We don't want it in this container. No electronic waste. So, you know, iPhones, TV sets, no. We recycle those, but at the recycling center. And no choice, no K-cups. Who knows what a K-cup is? Right, those little coffee cups. Yeah, they're a pain in the neck. They're a pain in the neck. They're trying to make those better for recycling, but for now, we don't want those in there. So we're trying to simplify it. We're trying to make it safer. And the benefit to you is your neighborhoods are going to look neater and cleaner because everybody will have those nice carts lined up. And we're going to have 2 guys on a truck, 2 people on a truck versus 3. So that third person can go and do other projects for the DPW, such as the renovation of the park or trees or something else, rather than have 3 on a truck. We can reallocate our labor without having to hire new people. Yes?
The town that I used to come from had recycling, but the trash cans had slots on the side. There was 1 man in the truck. At the end, they come down, pick it up, dump, and go.
Yeah. That's called a fully automated system. And we have a semi-automated system. The fully automated system is great, and it tends to be done out in, it's making its way eastward, but it started, I think, out in the Sun Belt, where you never have any snow, and you have all these beautiful concrete sidewalks with a nice cul-de-sac in these neighborhoods. And everybody has to put those containers out, all facing the right way, just perfectly so. And a guy in a truck would come and grab it and do this. Right. Now what do you do when there's a foot of snow here and the thing's a little tilted and it's up in the snowbank? Or you can't get it, or it's facing the wrong way and he picks it up, but the lid's face, oh, I gotta go, he's gotta hop out of the truck. So you ended up having, in some communities that did that, a truck that would go before that truck and turn all the containers and line them up. So you kind of defeat the purpose, right? So we decided to go with a semi-automated system. You might see the new trucks out there, they're really bright yellow, big long ones with a little side lift. So you're going to have a driver and you're going to have 1 picker who's going to hop out, he's going to ride inside the cab now. It's a lot safer than instead of hanging on the back, right? And we're in a transitional time here where the Packer trucks, the rear loaders, are going to have little lift arms. They're going to lift it as those are retired, we're gonna replace them with the other modern truck. So the modern truck comes in, the guy hops out, takes that container, turns around, gets a little lift arm, hits a button, and it goes all the way up, in, down, and puts it next one. So it's not fully automated, but it's very quick, and the time per stop is going to decrease. Because, again, some of these stops, they're running back and forth, picking up barrels, twisting, and you know, when you're 22, 25, you know, you're invincible and you just twist and grab, but then you do that job for 15 years, you wake up one day and you're 40, and you're going like, oh, you know. I mean, this is what happens, you know, these I can tell you doing health and safety for 25 years, you know, one of the worst, easiest ways to get hurt is lifting when you're twisting. So you twist, your spine's not in a stable, you do one of these, and then you really tear something or you do some damage to your lower back. Shoulders. So these are the multiple reasons we're doing this, and again, integrated solid waste management is picking up the tab 100% for the cost of these carts. Won't cost you as a taxpayer one dime. And that's unique. Most towns don't have a department that does this. But that's thanks to you and the leadership of this town 20 years ago, creating a department that was set up this way, and a business plan, and our leadership. We have a ISWM is overseen by not only the Board of Selectmen, but regulations by the Board of Health, the Cape Cod Commission, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, and the EPA. And I could go even further. So,
anything down to, but all those people telling you what to do.
well, you know, that's my main job is permitting. And, you know, that song by Frank Sinatra, you make it here, you can make it anywhere. Well, we're next to a Superfund site on a sole source aquifer on bucolic Cape Cod with multi-layers of agencies, and we still have a landfill. So how is that? It's because we did our homework and they did their homework, and all the people that are down gradient, if you will, in the pathway of any liquids from the old dump, we have groundwater monitoring wells that check our water in and around the landfill. When we did this upgrade to the landfill, we went and hooked up all of the houses that had, there was maybe 10 or 15 houses that had private drinking water wells that were anywhere near an exposure pathway to the landfill. And we put them on Bourne Water District water. And there are no public water supply wells near the landfill. And there's a bylaw that prohibits any new wells from going anywhere near the landfill. So unlike the military base where the pollution got off the base and there was concerns about exposure, I've been involved in that project for a long time. They're doing the right thing out there, but they're spending $1 billion cleaning up the pollution. We removed all of the risk for the homeowner who's got a private drinking water well. They got public water now. So a lot of oversight, you're absolutely right, a lot of work, but that was the choice we made. I talked about earlier that you can't have a small town with 6,000 tons of trash a year have enough money to pay for all that. It's impossible. You'd be paying $500 a ton versus 50 or 35. So the only way to do it is economies of scale. I'm sure some of you, all different professions here. So obviously if you have a larger facility, you can spread the cost over many users. But if if you just have fewer users, it's more cost per user. So that's the concept there. Yes?
At one time, they were supposed to give a different size barrel to seniors.
Yeah. Right now we're not doing that. And what happened was they found in Florida that when they did that, they thought that it was going to work out, that they were complaining that it ended up too small. And many communities have gone out with these barrels, and at first glance you may think it's going to be, I can't do this. But actually you get behind it, you center it, you just tilt back a little bit, and it just rolls really easily with the fulcrum and the leverage. All that being said, we have not purchased any separate size carts. Okay? Give this a shot. Several months down the road, if for some reason you have a particular medical condition or some sort of extenuating circumstance, you can give the DPW a call and we'll see if we can accommodate. Okay? But right now, this is the method we're going with. It's been proven, and I think you'll find it's going to work out for you. Yes?
The number, if you're going from 3 men to a truck to 2, what happens to the third guy?
As I said, they would reallocate that person within the DPW. Yes, sir.
My question is, does the same truck pick up both
Yes.
cats? Does it have a separate parking area for each one?
No, but thank you for asking that question. So on any given day, you may see a Packer truck with the rear load picking up your recyclables, or that new truck. And you, wait a minute, they're throwing away, it's a lie, they're throwing it all in the landfill. The trucks are basically utility infielders. They can do either container. We're looking at signage that we may say recycling on the truck when it picks up recycling and take the sign off or turn it around where it says trash. But the trucks are ambidextrous. They can do either. We don't have a split body, which is what you're talking about. Some communities have a split body where the back of the truck, 60% is trash and 40% is recycling. Those are very expensive, and we're just a very small community, so we really didn't go that way. Some major cities have done that to save on the cost, yes.
What are you gonna do with the old containers?
So your old barrels, as I mentioned, we have a container for rigid plastics. So when you come down to the drop-off center, you can keep your barrel. I mean, those are your barrels, right? Or you can bring them down and recycle them in that container that will have a big roll-off container. Yes, sir.
All this stuff can go in the rubbish barrel?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Why wouldn't you be able to throw the glass in the...
It's a different type of blend and different type of glass, but also too, if I say yes to that, then you're gonna start throwing windshield glass in there and plate glass from your windows, and it's a different quality of glass than the glass from a drinking bottle.
Huh.
And they will get ceramics from dishes and things in there. So you have to be careful how much you try to capture. You might have unintended consequences. For example, plastics, and then people say, that garden hose is plastic. I'll throw that baby doll arm is plastic. Well, diapers have plastic, you know, and then you start getting. So the biggest problem with single stream right now is people trying to do the right thing and being. I just thought it'd be better to just be sit on the safe side to put it in the recycling, so that it looks like it's recyclable. We want you to resist that urge. So when in doubt, throw it out. I hate to say that because I was a founding member of the recycling committee, but we really want you to focus on the very basic items that I mentioned up here, and that will be if you do all of this, you're going to find that a large portion of your trash, your barrel is just going to go down. You won't need that 96 gallon if you do this, unless you're a family of 10 or something. Yes.
The route's gonna change, and is the pickup times gonna be different?
Everything remains the same for right now. However, part of what we're going to look at is the barrels have a little chip in them, and we have a reader that's going to be in the trucks. And there's some software. At some point, we can start analyzing the time per stop and the efficiency of that route as it's currently configured. And that's going to take some time to figure out if there's any change that needs to be done or not. But for now, everything's the same. Nothing changes for now. That would be a big change and would require a lot of publicity and would do that at the appropriate time.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
a couple questions. Jars, leave the lids on?
No, take the metal lid off, put that,
Separate.
separate it out so it gets picked up.
And labels can stay on?
Labels fine.
Okay. Now, what about the containers that the town issued to begin with? What's going to happen?
Little 14 gallon. Those are yours. You can do what you want with those. So those little 14 gallon bins, we have a few of them now. We bought, need a few. We're going to put some more in the building here. You may want to put them in your office and then bring it down and have the big 96 gallon and then dump it in there. So those are yours to use. Those do not go out at the curb anymore.
But then you take, how do you get rid of them if you don't want them?
Well, same way I mentioned the barrel, you could bring them down. You could give them to a friend in town if they have a use for it. That would be a better use for it. Or we'll put them in that big container with the other bulky plastics.
Now, if I have barrels like that and I don't have a dumpster, where I can just take it down, drop it off?
No, you have to have a sticker to use the recycling center. Okay, $20. It's not a lot.
Best deal in town.
Yeah.
And can you put rubbish bags in the rubbish barrel?
Yes. 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 Thank you for asking it. Yes, we're not saying you can't use plastic bags to wrap up your trash and put it in the trash. The trash barrel will have a black lid, dark green black lid, so it'll say trash only on it. The other one will have a blue lid with a label on it that explains everything I just explained. So yeah, that absolutely, we don't expect you to put, raw trash in the barrel and have it stinking, wet like it was in the 60s and 70s.
How many bags do you think that can go in the trash barrel? An average kitchen bag.
Oh, if you can't get 6 in there, I'd be shocked.
I'm covered.
And you step on that a little bit, I mean, it's this big, it's this high. It's,
All that size,
what's that?
all the barrels will be that
Yeah,
large
yes,
size?
both of those barrels.
What size is that barrel behind you now?
So it's bigger than this one.
We have one just like that, we barely
Oh,
fill it
see?
every week.
Recyclables in the trash. So part of the program
It
here,
makes it out either.
yeah, I pick it all the time, I'll take this with me. What I want to say was a part of the program we're doing here is that all the buildings, I've got some bins for the gentleman here that does the recycling here, but all the town buildings and the schools will all get these containers, as well as we're spending money on large dumpsters out behind the building for recyclables that will be picked up by a special winch on the back of the Packer trucks. So all the trash for the buildings in the schools in town would be picked up by the Town of Bourne and taken to our facility.
So my question was, how was our barrel we're using like that compared to the new barrel?
It's about this much higher. And,
96 gallons is about 3 of those in there.
but I should have brought the dimensions. So it's about this high, about that wide. And it's got a handle on it, and 8-inch wheels. I think you'll see during this period, when you get them, start to use them.
Yeah. And the recyclable, we don't even.
But it would be too, that may be the case. But it would be really too complicated and onerous for us to try to start matching sizes to different homes. Because ultimately, these are the property of the Town of Bourne, and then, people sell their homes and the barrel stays with the home. You don't get to take it to Florida with you when you retire or whatever. It doesn't work that way. It says right in the town, it says Town of Bourne on the side of it, okay? So, yes.
Now, say for example, my question
Great.
is,
Yeah.
my trash cans I keep in my garage now,
Mhm.
but these big ones, I'm going to try to figure out how to do it. When I used to leave them outside, squirrels would actually chew through the plastic
Yeah.
and tear them up.
Now, we have a 10-year warranty. So if you have problems, things get damaged, let us know, and we have a really good warranty. We'll get the parts replaced. But they're pretty durable. I mean, again, this is not the first community to do this. These have been around a long time. So, I could go on and on and on, but I think you get the idea. This was a simple flyer to go out, so if you want to tell your friends, family, neighbors about this. We've been talking about it for a year. It's finally here. Everything will be delivered. As soon as you get your barrel, you can start using it. Don't wait. August 1st, everybody in town will have these. So from July to August is the delivery time, and by August 1st, we have a contract. These will be on the streets.
You only put out 1 barrel a week if you want to, right?
If you don't have enough recycling, then you don't have to. But recycling is mandatory. If you don't comply with, and we start finding out, that's another level of enforcement, we may start to go and say, you got a big barrel for, why are you throwing all your milk jugs in the truck? We may put a sticker on it or come talk to you. Or if you put 6 bags of trash on the bottom, if you don't comply with that, you may lose your curbside service at some point. So, but you don't have to put the recycling down every week.
Do all the schools recycle?
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier. They recycle some items now, but we're going to expand that to make it. That was part of this whole thing, is to upgrade everybody and do it the same way. Any other questions? Yes.
Did you say that these are made that you don't have to put them up at certain?
bring it to the curb,
Yeah.
and then our guy's gonna run up, grab it, and line it up. And that's a semi-automated system. That automated system he was talking about, if you don't have it lined up just perfect,
Yeah, we have that now in Florida.
yeah, I mean, but Florida doesn't get a foot of snow in February, and, you know, everybody's got nice, you know, manicured concrete sidewalks. Right, I mean, it's a lot different. Well, thank you for having me here, I really appreciate it.